Okay, so in the previous tutorial we have seen how we can process our resources at the resource building base, and now let's implement a feature to increment the values or increment the harvested resource amounts at the resource building, right? So currently I think we have a function at the worker base at the harvesting phase. So at the end of the harvesting, over here we actually harvest the resource amounts from the resource target resource, right? And then we populate a variable called the units harvested. But ideally what we need to do is save this value at the resource building base, so it signifies like we stacked our resources after the harvesting, right? Great. So in order to achieve that, basically we have to go to our resource building base, and we can create a variable called maybe harvested amount, right? Or let's say saved harvested amount, right? And this should be an integer, and actually we don't need to necessarily add this to the setup category, because this is just an internal variable that will be manipulated by the internal functions, right? So we don't need to explicitly specify it as an instant editable or add it to this setup resource building category, right? But instead of that, let's create a function called end processing, and at the end processing we should set this variable, something like this. So at the input I will name it as harvested amount, and at the worker base and processing, and after the end processing we can call that function by using this home resource building reference. So I'll convert it to the validated get function, get method, and I can call that function over here, and we should pass this units harvested to that specific function. Then ultimately it will store that here. And actually we shouldn't directly set our saved harvested amount like this, because then each time when a worker and processing the resources, this will reset the previously saved values, right? And that is not what we want. Instead of that, what we need to increment the existing values, something like this. And maybe just for the testing purposes I will print this thing, and I'll maybe assign a color which is green, and yeah, maybe let's start testing with our lumber. So I'll disable other instances, and ideally it should print a green value that represent that stacked amount, right? Yeah, so farmer has been harvested 50 units, and yeah, you can see that green value printed over here, which means that harvested units has been stored at that resource building base. Great. And after this end processing, basically this is the last step of a specific worker, and after that he should search for resource again, right? So at the end of this end processing we can call this search for resource function again, and it will complete a worker cycle, right? And also I can add some random delay, so maybe random float in range be 1 to 2 seconds. So basically a specific worker will remain some random time in range of 1 to 2 seconds and will start looking for resources again, right? So basically this is the entire cycle what we need to cover. So initially the worker start by searching for resources and then move to the resources and start harvesting, and after the harvesting he carry the resource back to the resource building base and then process the resources, which increments the stacked value at the specific home resource base, and after that the worker will redo the functionality again and again, right? Great. So let's try to simulate it again and we'll see that we have a complete working cycle. Harvesting and then moving to the resource base, start processing and wait some random time. Okay, great. And he's moving again to the target resource and 50 more units has been harvested, and yeah, so you can see now the harvested stacked amount is 100. So likewise actually this will keep happen again and again, and yeah, so that's how basically we increment the values or stack the resource at the home resource building. Maybe in the next tutorial we can cover some resource depletion setup, which means that let's say this tree is having some sort of finite amount of units, let's say 200, and after completely mined that 200 units, or after completely hashed that amount of units, this resource should be disappear, right, or get destroyed because that resource has been depleted, right? So maybe in the future tutorials we'll try to implement that functionality as well, but for now everything works properly, and ideally this is what we wanted to be done. And actually instead of this simulation, now let's try to play it as an actual game by using the selected viewport, because in the simulation actually we can freely move around here and there, probably just for the testing purposes, but in the actual game we shouldn't be able to simulate like this or freely move around the map. Instead of that, it should trigger our camera component and handle the interactions accordingly, right? So it will feel like a RTS game. So instead of the simulation, let's try to play the actual game by using selected viewport. And yeah, so this is our game. Basically, yeah, so lumber is harvesting wood resources, and yeah, so I think there is a camera collision test issue. Maybe we can fix that thing as well. But yeah, yeah, so we have to enable these two workers as well, and I think this collision test happen. Some collision testing happen, so maybe we can disable that collision at the BP camera pawn, and at the spring arm, it says this do collision test, but for now let's try to disable it and compile and save, and we will not have such collision test issues. Okay, so let's try to simulate it again. Yeah, so this is our farmer, so not the farmer, lumber character, and he's mining the woods or harvesting the woods. And this is the farming girl, and she's harvesting resources and processing as well. Also, this is the miner, and he's mining stones as well. Great. So basically, I think this covers almost all the AI functionalities that we need to implement within this game. And after that, most of the functionalities will be gameplay related and UI related stuffs in the future tutorials, right? But yeah, so these are the features for now, and yeah, so I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.